Hey everyone, it's me Bailey and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be reading the longest sitting books on my Goodreads TBR. Now I have done a couple of these videos in the past. The last one that I filmed was about a year ago and I had planned on filming more of these videos. I just got busy and then started filming other content, and so this topic of video kind of took a little bit of a back seat in my mind. But I'm here, I'm ready to read the longest sitting books on my TBR, so that is what we're going to be doing in today's video. So if you have not seen one of these videos that I've done in the past, I will be reading the 3 books that have been sitting on my TBR for the longest time, and after looking on Goodreads it turns out that this is actually a trilogy, so I will be reading this trilogy in this video. So per Goodreads, the trilogy that I'm going to be reading is the Darkest Minds trilogy. So that is The Darkest Minds, Never Fade, and In the Afterlife by Alexandra Bracken. And my last video that I did like this had 2 Alexandra Bracken books in it. It was her other duology that she has written, and it was the Passenger duology, and I just really did not like those books. I didn't vibe with them. They were not for me, so I'm hoping that I'm going to like this series a lot better. I know the first book was made into a movie, but they never ended up making movies out of the other 2, so I'm not sure what happened there. But this is like the epitome of like 2012 2013 dystopian, so I'm interested to see if I like this, because I did love Divergent and I did really enjoy The Hunger Games, so I'm interested to see what my thoughts are going to be on this book in this series. So with that being said, that's gonna be it for this intro, and I will update you guys once I have something to say about these books. Hello. So this is the first time that I've spoken to the camera since doing the intro for this video, and I started this book during a 24-hour readathon, which is probably up by now, but I did end up starting the first book for this video during that 24-hour readathon, and I made it around 66-ish or so % into The Darkest Minds, and I realized that I'd never updated this vlog, which I still have not finished this. Like, I'm still at that same like 66-ish % mark of this book, but I did want to give like some updates on my thoughts. And so overall I'm enjoying this a lot more than I expected to. I mean, obviously I haven't picked it up in a few days, but where I left off I was really enjoying it, and I like this way more than I thought that I was going to, because in the past, like when I've done one of these videos before, I did read the Passenger series by Alexandra Bracken, and I did not like that series. I did not like that series at all, and it just felt so wordy. Like, she was over explaining everything that was going on, but with this does not feel that way. This is actually like pretty good, and I'm actually really enjoying my time reading this, so I do see myself giving this like a pretty decent rating. I know that I gave Passenger 2 stars, I believe, and I think I gave Wayfarer like 1.5 star maybe. Like, I really just did not like those books, but this I'm having a much better experience with. So basically we're following Ruby, and she has been sent to this like camp where you are labeled with whatever type of like abilities you have, and she lies to the people who are doing the like sorting, and is sorted in a different color than she actually is, and eventually she ends up, you know, escaping this camp, and it's following her during her escape and her being in the world that has since changed and put all of these children in these camps because they are afraid of the powers that the children have. And so that's like a really, really bad description of it, I feel like. But this is like a dystopian type book, and in my like more recent years I have not really gravitated towards dystopian very much, but overall I'm enjoying this. I'm having a really good time. It's definitely very much giving, you know, Hunger Games, Divergent, 2012 era, but I feel like the writing in this has held up pretty well, and like I said, I'm enjoying my time and will probably be finishing this soon. I'm thinking I might read a little bit more of this tonight before I go to bed, and I don't know, who knows, maybe I'll finish it. Like I said, I'm around 66%, I believe. I'm on page 326, which is 21, so I have about, you know, 150 to 200 or so pages left in this book. So I don't know, I'm thinking maybe I'll pick this up a little bit tonight, but I know that I am getting ready to start kind of like winding down for bed, so I do have the audiobook for it, so I might listen to that while I'm like getting ready for bed. And yeah, maybe I'll get really into it and I'll finish it tonight, but I am planning on reading the whole series during the span of this video, just because all three of those happen to be the books that have been on my Goodreads TBR for the longest time at this point. So I will be reading the full series during this video, so once I finish this one I will be picking up the second book. Hello, so I wanted to come on here and update that I finished The Darkest Minds. So I think my rating of this is going to be like a 3.75. It was very close to a 4, but the ending for me, I just wasn't like a big fan of the way that it ended. But also too, I feel like based on the contents of this book, I feel like this could be at best a duology, and I honestly feel like if some things were a little bit different, it could have been a standalone. But I am going to read the second book now that I have finished this first one. Overall, this was not a bad book at all. I definitely found that the story was easy to get into, and it did keep me entertained for the most part. I definitely see the difference between Alexandra Brecken's writing in this series versus her Passenger series, and I'm not exactly sure which one came out first, but I liked this book a whole lot more than the other two books in the Passenger series. So hopefully the second book will be just as good as this one and not kind of fall into like middle book syndrome and just be really, really boring. But I am going to pick that one up next now that I've finished this one. And yeah, so 3.75 stars, not a bad book. Would recommend this for like a younger audience, and if you're interested in like sci-fi and like young adult sci-fi, young adult dystopian, and you really liked The Hunger Games and Divergent and you're looking for something nostalgic of that era, I think I would definitely recommend this book. But overall, not too bad. And yeah, so now that I finished this, I will be picking up the second book. Hello, so I have just finished Never Fade, so I think I'm gonna end up giving this 3.5 stars. This felt almost like a copy and paste of The Darkest Minds. Like, it felt very much the same. Obviously there were a few plot elements that were a little bit different and the ending was different, obviously, but it felt very similar to The Darkest Minds. Like, not in a bad way, but it just felt like I was reading the same book. but with like a few more characters. And so yeah, honestly, I don't know. I am interested to see how this trilogy is going to conclude, but I definitely feel like this probably fell into like middle book syndrome and trying to get us from point A to point C, I guess you can say, and having this be point B, and it just wasn't what I was expecting. It was very, like I said, very similar to The Darkest Minds in the fact that they are basically just like running around and like that's really it. They're just all just running around. But the ending was pretty good and it has me interested to know what's going to happen in the next book. So I will be reading the next book now that I finished this one, and then once I finish that book, then this video will be over and I will have read the longest sitting books on my TBR for this video. But now that I finished this, I'm going to be starting the third book in the series. To update. I feel like I have not updated this vlog in forever, but I finally started In the Afterlight for the third and final book in this video, the third and final book in this trilogy, and I started listening to this on audiobook today while I was at work, and I'm currently on page 167, which is like the start of chapter 9. I have read a pretty good amount in this book today, so I'm going to read some more tonight before I go to bed, and hopefully I can get to, I don't know, maybe around like chapter 15, 16. I was hoping that I might get to chapter 20 tonight. I don't know, I do still have like an hour before I'm planning on going to bed, so maybe I can get a little bit more read than I originally was anticipating. So yeah, I don't know, we'll just see, but I'm going to read some more of this before I go to bed, so let's get to reading. It is now the next morning, and I did not speak to the camera last night, but I did want to kind of give my thoughts a little bit on what I've read so far in the Afterlight. So I'm currently on chapter 19, which is page 386. So I do see myself finishing this today, but I wanted to go ahead and kind of give like my thoughts on it before I finished it, since I haven't like spoken about it since before I started. And so I feel like this book is doing a lot. I don't know, I feel like with Alexandra Bracken, I feel like in her books that I've read before, I feel like she just kind of like talks a lot or like writes a lot for things that don't necessarily need to be written a lot about. I don't know, it feels like she's just very wordy, and I've noticed that in her books that I've read in the past. So I just don't necessarily know if this series needed to be 3 books long, especially considering the second book felt almost like a copy and paste of the first one. So it's just like weird, I don't know. So I feel like this book, although it is an extension of the other two, I feel like that it could have really only been a duology, especially considering like the events of this book, because this book does feel obviously different than the other two in the series, but it just seems like nothing is really changing. Like they're trying, but it's like everything is still very like stagnant and no progress is really being made, if that makes any sense. I don't know, but I feel like this is probably going to be like a 3-star, maybe 3.5, but I just don't feel like I was wowed by this book. I feel like the first book in the series was probably the best one, and then like the second one was kind of unnecessary, and then this one. I feel like this one could have been the second one and it would have been like fine as a duology, but yeah, I don't know. But I am probably going to finish this today. I'll probably listen to it while I'm at work and then come back with my final thoughts and close out this video. Okay, so it is a little bit later and I just finished In the Afterlight by Alexandra Bracken. Obviously you guys know it's by Alexandra Bracken. Every book in this video is by Alexandra Bracken. I think my rating for this is going to be 3 stars. I don't know, I'm kind of torn because like I feel like, honestly, I feel like I could rate it a little bit lower just because I felt like the things in this book were not fleshed out. Like obviously it's the ending of the book, so, or the ending of a series, so everything is going to come to a conclusion, and this did happen to have a happily ever after, if you will, but I feel like the events leading up to the end were not fleshed out very well. So pretty much the whole time in this book they're talking about this plan, but we never really know what the plan is. Like they keep talking about a plan and how they're planning to, you know, go to Thurmond and whatever and do the plan, but they never sit down and are like, okay, this is the plan and this is how we're going to accomplish it. They're just like, we have a plan, we need this person, this person, this person, and that's it. Like there was no like planning, I guess. Like we didn't get to see what the plan was until it was like happening. Like if that makes sense. Like I don't know, it just felt like there was no like build up. Like it was like all of a sudden they're planning and then all of a sudden like the plan that they were trying to plan for is now happening. I don't know, and it just, yeah, I don't know. It was an okay book. Like I feel like 3 stars is fine, and yeah, I definitely like the first 2 books in the series better, and I definitely feel like even though book 2 was a copy and paste of the first one, it just worked out a lot better than this one. And I feel like honestly that this series could have been like a duology, but overall I feel like this is still a pretty good series, especially for like younger readers or people who are starting out in reading, or like young adult. Like it is a young adult series, so I definitely feel like, you know, younger audience would be the better target for this series. But I do still think that it was a really good series. Like it just wasn't necessarily for me at the age of 25, and that is completely okay. But I will say that I did give each book in this series a like some form of 3-star rating. Like I got the first one 3.75, the second one 3.5, and this one a 3 star. So this is a like 3-star series, which in my opinion is not a bad series. Like 3 stars is not bad in my opinion. That's not a bad rating. So yeah, I don't know, I'm happy to be done with the series. I'm happy that I read it. I don't regret reading it. I hate that it's been on my TBR for so long. I wish I would have gotten to it like way back in the day when this was like super popular, and I feel like I could have enjoyed it more, but that just wasn't the case. And so 3 stars for this. And yeah, those are my thoughts on this book, the whole trilogy really. And yeah, so now that I finished the last book in this series, that is the last book that I was planning on reading for this video. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and end this video. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, make sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. If you want to see me do this video again or like continue on in this series, let me know down in the comments. I would be happy to continue this series. I just think it's so fun reading some like throwback books, or like books that have just been on my TBR for a really long time, and like kind of clearing it out from like the start to now. And yeah, so if you guys want to see that, let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you guys in my next video.